Once upon a time, in a faraway land, there were 3 little pigs who lived with their mother. But this was no ordinary family of pigs. They were cybernetically enhanced super pigs, the last of their kind. And they had just received word from their mother that it was time for them to leave home and fend for themselves. The oldest pig, Chester, scoffed at the thought. He wasn't exactly sure if he wanted to go out into the big city just yet. "Mom, are you sure we have to go? What if something happens to us out there?" Chester asked. "You silly sausage," their mother replied. "Those wolves aren't going to hurt you. You're stronger than you think. Just build yourself a nice house. Stay away from danger and you'll be fine." As the 3 pigs packed up their things, Chester couldn't help but feel a sense of dread. He knew their mother was right, but that didn't make him feel any better. As the siblings approached the edge of the forest, they could see the towering skyscrapers of the nearby city. It looked so big and imposing. Chester gulped. This was going to be harder than he thought. The 3 little pigs were now standing before a large field of debris left over from the destruction of their village. In the distance, they could hear the sounds of construction and the rumble of traffic. Chester shivered. Would he ever be able to live in a world like this? "Well, here goes nothing," Chester muttered to himself. Taking a deep breath, he began to survey the wreckage. There had to be something here that he could use to build a house. As he walked around, he noticed all sorts of things that might be useful: metal scraps, wood, glass, bricks, and more. But everything was covered in dirt and grime, making it difficult to tell what was there. Thinking quickly, Chester took off his jacket and tied it around his face like a makeshift mask. Then he got to work clearing away the dirt and debris, until he had uncovered a pile of metal scraps. "Perfect," he said with a smile. "I can make a great house out of this." And with that, Chester set to work cutting, hammering, and welding the metal together. He worked day and night, eating only when he absolutely had to. And after a few weeks, he had built himself a nice little house. It wasn't much to look at, but it was sturdy and secure. Most importantly, it was finished. Chester took a step back to admire his work. He had done it. He had built himself a house and survived on his own. He felt a sense of pride and accomplishment that he had never felt before. But his moment of triumph was short-lived. As he looked around, he realized that he was not alone. Standing in front of him were 3 hungry wolves. "Well, well, well," said the first wolf. "Looks like we have ourselves a nice little pigsty. And judging by the smell, the pork is going to be delicious." Chester gulped. These wolves didn't look friendly. They were big and mean, and they looked like they hadn't eaten in days. "I'm sorry," Chester stammered, "but I won't let you eat me." The wolf snarled and lunged at Chester, but he was too quick and dodged out of the way. The wolf crashed into the wall of the house, which was no match for its sharp teeth and metal claws. The wall crumbled, and the wolf grinned. It looked like dinner was served. But just then, a voice rang out. "Get away from our brother, you dirty animals." It was Chester's younger brother, Clifford. He stood at the edge of the forest with his 2 best friends, Bruno and Finnegan. Bruno and Finnegan were big and strong, and they were not afraid of the wolves. "Yeah, get lost," added Finnegan, brandishing a large stick. The wolves hesitated. They had come for an easy meal, but these super pigs were proving to be more trouble than they were worth. With a final growl, they turned and ran into the forest. As the pigs watched them go, Chester couldn't help but feel a sense of gratitude towards his brother and his friends. He had been scared and alone, but they had come to help him, and he was grateful for that. After the wolves had disappeared into the trees, Chester opened the door and stepped out. He looked at his house, which was now in ruins, and sighed. He had put so much work into building it, and now it was gone. But then he looked at his brother and his friends, who were all standing in front of him with determined expressions on their faces. "We may have lost our houses," Chester said, "but we still have each other. Besides, we're stronger than those wolves. We don't need their stinky old house." Clifford smiled. "That's the spirit, Chester," he said. "Now let's go find some food. I'm starving." So the 4 little pigs set off into the city together. They walked past towering skyscrapers and busy intersections, taking in all the sights and sounds. Soon they came across a park where they decided to have a picnic. They took turns telling jokes and stories, and before long they were all fast friends. As the sun began to set, the pigs made camp in the park. They huddled together for warmth, and Chester couldn't help but feel a sense of contentment. He was surrounded by his friends and family, and he knew that no matter what happened, they would be there for each other. Together, they would be able to face anything. Just then, a voice broke the silence. Well, 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 looks like we have some tasty pork to feast on. The pigs turned to see the same three wolves from earlier. They had returned for seconds. Run! Chester shouted, and the pigs took off. They ran as fast as they could, but the wolves were gaining on them. Soon they reached a river, and the pigs hesitated. They didn't know if they could swim that far. They didn't have a choice. The wolves were almost on top of them. With a mighty leap, Chester jumped into the water. He swam as hard as he could, but the current was strong and he was exhausted. Just when he thought he couldn't swim anymore, he saw a patch of land up ahead and he surged forward. One by one, the other pigs made it to shore, and soon they were all safe on a small island in the middle of the river. Panting and exhausted, the pigs watched as the wolves struggled to reach them. The water was too high and too fast for them to swim, and eventually they gave up and disappeared into the forest. As the sun rose the next morning, the pigs set to work building a new house. They used materials they found on the island, and before long they had built themselves a cozy little cottage. It wasn't much to look at, but it was sturdy and secure. And most importantly, it was a place where they could feel safe. One day, while gathering food, Chester stumbled upon a group of humans. They were tall and strange-looking, but they didn't seem to mind his presence. In fact, they were quite friendly and invited him to join them for a barbecue. Chester accepted and soon found himself enjoying a delicious meal with some very interesting people. One of the humans, a woman with long flowing hair, noticed Chester's sadness and asked him what was wrong. Chester hesitated, but then he told her about the wolves and how they had destroyed his house and scared away his family. The woman listened patiently and then said, "I think I can help you." She took Chester back to her village where she introduced him to a group of craftsmen. They were all experts in their trade, and they agreed to help Chester rebuild his house. Together, they gathered materials and set to work. Before long, they had built Chester a beautiful house made of wood and stone. It was the nicest house on the block, and Chester couldn't believe his luck. Not only did he have a new house, but he also had made some good friends along the way. As the years passed, Chester and his family grew old and gray. They lived in peace and harmony, and the memory of their adventure together kept them close. They had faced many challenges, but they had overcome them all. And through it all, they had learned the importance of family, friendship, and the power of believing in yourself.